Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Answers on Eschatology. My name is Dan Derry, and I'm the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. Hey, we're in the middle of a study on Matthew 24, and I want to share some more thoughts out of verse 30 with you this evening. Now, I want to look again at the phrase, "Then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn," and we've established, I think, pretty definitively that Jesus was not referring to a future to us global mourning of every person on planet Earth. He was talking about the mourning of all 12 tribes of Israel as a result of the judgment and the destruction of their temple and their city. And what I want to do in this video is I want to connect another parable of Jesus that helps us understand this fact, okay? Because remember, Jesus was simply reiterating promises and prophecies that he had spoken throughout his entire ministry with the phrase, all the tribes of the earth shall mourn. He had promised and he had told his generation that if they would not repent, if they would not receive him as Messiah, receive his kingdom, and now he didn't say that in those words, but this is what his parables conveyed. If they would not receive the kingdom he was establishing, they would be cut off from the nation, they would be cut off from the kingdom, and they would understand this when they were judged, and in that time there would be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. In other words, all tribes of Israel would mourn. Okay? And I want to show you this once again from the parable of the wheat and the tares of Matthew chapter 13. Go there with me. Let's read verses 24 down to 30, and then we'll read the interpretation of this and show you that based on this parable, we can see once again that the phrase, "and all the tribes of the earth shall mourn" in verse 30 was a reference to the mourning of all 12 tribes of Israel in the first century as a result of their judgment and destruction in AD 70. Matthew 13 and verse 24. Jesus presented another parable to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went away. But when the wheat sprouted and bore grain, then the tares became evident also. The slaves of the landowner came to him and said, "Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares?" And he said to them, "An enemy has done this." The slave said, "Do you want us then to go and gather them up?" He said, "No, for while you are gathering up the tares, you may uproot the wheat also." Now pay attention to verse 30. "Allow both to grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather up the tares and bind them in bundles and burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn." Okay, so at the time of harvest, the wheat and the tares, the wicked and the righteous, would be gathered together. Now watch this. Let's look at Jesus' own interpretation of this parable. Let's read verses 36 down to 43. "Then he left the crowds and went into the house, and his disciples came to him and said, 'Explain to us the parable of the tares of the field.' And he said, 'The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world.'" Now, we have to understand, this is not the whole earth or the globe he's talking about as the world. This is the word cosmos. And it's the same word that Paul uses in 1 Corinthians 7:26 and following when he says the form of this world, cosmos, is passing away. And he said it was passing away as the result of the present distress. Okay? And Apostle John in 1 John 2:18, he talked about the world that was passing away, the cosmos that was passing away. Peter alluded to this in 1 Peter 4:7. He said, "The end of all things has drawn near." See, this is the end of the covenant world, the end of the cosmos. And this is the same cosmos that Jesus is talking about in Matthew 13. The field is the cosmos. Watch this. "And as for the good seed, these are the sons of the kingdom. And the tares are the sons of the evil one." See, the wicked and the righteous both existed in the same system, this Jewish system under the old covenant age. The tares of the kingdom represented the righteous remnant of Israel. The sons of the evil one, or the tares, the chaff of Matthew 3, represented the unfaithful of Israel who had rejected their kingdom. And how do I get that? How do I see them as sons of the kingdom? Well, that's easy. John 8:44, Jesus said to the Jews of his day who were rejecting him and his kingdom, "You are of your father the devil." In Revelation chapter 3, verse 9, Jesus said that those who say they are Jews, but who are not, those are of the synagogue of Satan. See, those who were of the fleshly seed of Abraham, but not by faith, they said they were Jews, but they were not. They were the synagogue of Satan. This is Old Covenant Israel. This is the sons of the evil one that existed in that Old Covenant world, in that Old Covenant cosmos under the Old Covenant age. And they dwelt together with the righteous remnant, the sons of the kingdom. Both dwelt together. We can see this, by the way, really clearly in the epistle of Paul to the Galatians, where these Judaizers, these Jews, were troubling the Christians. Much of this false doctrine was brought in by the sons of the devil, who said they were Jews and were not. Now, let's go on. And the enemy who sowed them is the devil, and the harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. Now, remember, Matthew 24, the beginning of this discourse. The disciples connect the judgment of Jerusalem, the destruction of their temple, with the end of the age. What shall be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Watch this. Just as the tares are gathered and burned with fire, this is verse 40, so shall it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send forth his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all stumbling blocks and those who commit lawlessness, and will throw them into the furnace of fire. In that place there will be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. So catch the context and the framework of Matthew 13. At the time of harvest, that is the end of the Old Covenant age, the sons of the devil, Old Covenant Israel, the tares, the unrighteous of the seed of Abraham, would be judged. They would be gathered out of the kingdom, burned with fire, but the righteous would inherit the kingdom. This is Matthew 24. You see, this is what Jesus was referring to in verses 29 and 30. Verse 29 represents the judgment and the burning up of the tares, the darkening of the sun, the moon not shedding its light, and the stars falling from heaven. That is covenantal judgment upon Old Covenant Israel, upon the tares. This is the gathering of the sons of the evil one out of the kingdom, being judged and burned with fire. And the righteous were inheriting the kingdom at that time. We'll get to that in Matthew 24, verse 30. He shall send forth his angels and gather together his elect. The elect, the righteous remnant, receiving the kingdom. The sons of the wicked one were being judged and destroyed. And at that time, Jesus says, then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn. And in Matthew 13, it says, he will throw them into the furnace of fire. In that place, there will be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth when they're judged. Old Covenant Jerusalem, the sons of the evil one, would weep and wail. They would gnash their teeth. All tribes of the earth, those who were unfaithful to their kingdom call, would weep, would wail. They would mourn because they had missed their kingdom, because they had missed their Messiah. That's Matthew 24:30. That's Matthew 13:30 and following. Listen, Jesus was just reiterating promises and prophecies that he had spoken to his covenant nation through his entire ministry. Matthew 24:30 is not in our future. It was fulfilled 2,000 years in our past. And all tribes of the earth did mourn in AD 70 when they saw the kingdom taken from them and given to another nation, and their covenant world, the cosmos, burned and destroyed. We'll pick it up next time. We'll look at the prophetic source of Matthew 24:30 next time on Answers on Eschatology. Bye for now.